My name is Aaron Blake, and this is Denver, a city of towering mountains and endless skies, where every street corner still carries stories of the life I once dreamed of. 7 years have passed since the night everything I held dear unraveled, when love slipped through my hands and left me with nothing but regret. The heartbreak that shattered me in 2018 lingers like a scar carved into stone, a constant reminder of the choices I didn't make, the work I refused to do, and the life I was too blind to fight for. At that time, I found myself at 31, nestled in a cozy yet modest apartment on the vibrant Colfax Avenue. Denver thrummed with life in ways I couldn't quite grasp, new breweries blossoming like wildflowers on every corner, their doors flung open, laughter and the clinking of glasses spilling out onto the streets. Tech startups were buzzing with energy at Union Station, where the air crackled with innovation and ambition, each conversation filled with dreams of the future. The majestic Rockies loomed in the background, their sharp peaks silhouetted against the expansive canvas of the sky, painted with hues of orange and purple at sunset. The city pulsed with relentless forward momentum, a whirlwind of possibilities. And there I was, feeling as if I were caught in a still moment, unable to move forward, tethered to a past that no longer served me. I didn't find myself without work. I was clocking in part-time as a delivery driver, but if I'm being truthful, I had slipped into a comfortable laziness. The fire of ambition that once burned bright within me had dimmed, leaving only smoldering embers. I convinced myself that life would eventually sort itself out, that I had earned this respite after years spent toiling in unfulfilling jobs. Mornings melted away as I sank deeper into my blankets, lingering in bed until late hours, while the sun climbed high in the sky. My days turned into a haze of binging on series that I had already watched, as I lost myself in the captivating worlds of my favorite shows. Evenings transformed into a blur of late-night gaming sessions, where I could escape reality for a while. It was during this languid drift that I realized my once fervent ambition had evaporated, slipping silently away between the fleeting moments of my 20s and the uncertainty of my 30s. And then there was Emma Hayes. She came into my life one spring evening at a friend's barbecue in City Park. I remember her laugh before I saw her, a warm melodic sound that cut through the chatter and the smell of grilled burgers. She had auburn hair that caught the sunset and eyes that seemed to notice everything. She was a teacher, passionate about her work, the kind of woman who volunteered at shelters on weekends and still had time to bake cookies for her students. When she smiled at me that night, I felt like I'd been chosen for something extraordinary. We started dating, and for the first time in years I felt alive. She challenged me, inspired me, loved me despite my flaws. She never nagged me about my lack of drive, at least not at first. She said she believed in my potential, that I was creative and just needed direction. I clung to those words like a lifeline, but as the months passed, cracks began to show. Emma worked long hours, grading papers late into the night, while I lounged on the couch, controller in hand. She paid for dinners more often than I did, covered rent when my hours got cut, and kept asking gently at first if I'd considered finding something more stable. "Aaron," she said one night over takeout, "don't you want more for us, for yourself?" I brushed her off. Why stress? We're fine. But we weren't fine. As autumn settled in, the chasm that had developed between us became unmistakable. She carried an air of restlessness, a simmering frustration that she attempted to mask with practiced smiles. The crisp air was thick with unspoken tension, and then Thanksgiving arrived, a moment poised to either bridge the divide or deepen it further. Emma warmly invited me to her family's dinner, which was set against the charming backdrop of Cherry Creek. At first I hesitated. The thought of mingling in a large gathering filled me with dread. The idea of small talk with strangers felt overwhelming, but Emma's enthusiasm was infectious, and she insisted that I come. It was during that vibrant evening, filled with laughter and the aroma of homemade dishes, that I met him, my father, not my biological father. He'd walked out when I was just a child, but my stepfather, Mark Blake, remained a towering figure in my life. He married my mother when I was 16, stepping into a role I never quite asked him to fill. Mark was a man who commanded attention. His charismatic presence lit up any room he entered. A successful entrepreneur, he built businesses with the kind of audacity that made failure seem like a foreign concept. Yet, despite his many achievements, we hadn't shared a close bond in years. I found myself resenting him more often than not, particularly for his relentless lectures on hard work and responsibility, which felt more like burdens than guidance. His voice echoed in my head, a constant reminder of expectations I struggled to meet. As Emma and I stepped into the warmly lit dining room, a wave of laughter and the clinking of silverware greeted us. The moment her gaze landed on Mark, I caught a fleeting glimmer in her eyes, an unmistakable mix of recognition and admiration that made my heart twist tight. Even though they were meeting for the first time, there was an undeniable chemistry in the air. He effortlessly commanded the attention of everyone at the table, his charismatic laughter rising above the hum of conversation. His eyes sparkled with genuine curiosity as he leaned in, captivated by her passionate anecdotes about teaching. I felt an uninvited sense of smallness wash over me, as if the walls were closing in, and I was fading into the background of their enchanting exchange. I brushed it off as my own insecurity, until weeks later, when Emma grew distant in ways I couldn't explain, late-night meetings, vague excuses about being too tired to see me. I confronted her once, and she swore nothing was wrong. The truth hit me on a snowy night in December. I arrived home early from my delivery shift, eager to surprise her with a home-cooked dinner. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm golden hue over the parking lot as I pulled into the familiar confines of my building. My heart raced with anticipation when I spotted her car parked in its usual spot. Nothing out of the ordinary there. However, my excitement quickly turned to unease when I noticed another vehicle nestled nearby, Mark's sleek black BMW, its polished exterior gleaming ominously in the fading light. My stomach turned to ice. I hurried up the stairs, my heart racing like a wild drum, and flung open the door to my apartment, which creaked slightly on its hinges. As I stepped inside, the scene before me struck me like a cold wave crashing over my senses. On my worn couch, bathed in the soft glow of the lamp, were Emma and Mark, lost in each other's embrace, their lips brushing and melding together like nothing had ever come between us. The sight was like a jagged knife twisting in my heart, a stark reminder that I was the ghost in my own home.
Emma, my voice cracked.
She froze, eyes wide with guilt. Mark stood, calm as ever, buttoning his shirt. "Aaron," he said smoothly, "I think we need to talk." "Talk?" I wanted to tear the world apart. Emma tried to speak, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I needed someone who believed in me, who pushed me. And you found that in him? My father?" I choked on the word. She sobbed. "I loved you, Aaron. I really did. But you're stuck, and I can't stay stuck with you." Mark didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He just looked at me like I was a child who hadn't learned his lesson. I kicked them both out that night, but the damage was done. Emma left me for him, and within months they were living together in a house in Wash Park. I spiraled. Anger, depression, regret. I blamed them at first, but as the days turned to weeks, I faced the brutal truth. I'd handed her away long before Mark took her. My laziness, my complacency, my refusal to grow, it had cost me the best thing I'd ever had. 2018 ended with me alone in that same apartment, watching fireworks over the Denver skyline through a dirty window, realizing that regret is heavier than heartbreak. I've changed since then, got a full-time job, cleaned myself up, started over. But every time I see a couple laughing in City Park, I think of Emma, and of how I lost her not just to my father but to my own failure to try.